In August 2023, police in Grand Rapids, Michigan, responded to reports of gunfire inside a residential neighborhood. Inside the home, 38-year-old Alicia Lofton was found dead from multiple gunshot wounds. Just one day earlier, she had filed for divorce from her husband, Marcus Lofton. Investigators quickly identified him as the suspect. Court records showed Marcus had a history of domestic violence and had been arrested only months before for assaulting Alicia. Despite bond conditions that barred him from contact, he was in the home on the morning of her death. The timeline of that day revealed a violent confrontation. An argument broke out, a gun was retrieved, and Alicia attempted to flee. What happened next was confirmed through forensic evidence, autopsy findings, and witness accounts that left little doubt about the sequence of events.
Family is sharing their grief tonight after a Grand Rapids mother was shot and killed last week.
According to court records, the suspect is in custody. It's the man she was trying to divorce. Our Julie Dunmeyer joins us with more. Julie.
Yeah, Josh and Max, family tells me it's hard for them to even hear Alicia Lofton's full name because she shares the same last name with the man who allegedly shot and killed her. Loved ones saying their main focus right now is on the 3 children she leaves behind.
Loving, outgoing, high-spirited, give you the clothes off her back, loved her kids, loved life.
This case exposed serious gaps in protective systems meant to safeguard victims. The warning signs were visible, but enforcement and intervention fell short. What followed was a murder that could have been prevented. Stay with us as we unravel this shocking story and uncover the heartbreaking details of what led to this senseless loss. Before we begin, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from? And what are your thoughts as the story unfolds? Welcome to True Crime Tales, where we reveal the crimes that shock communities and the secrets hidden behind closed doors. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Now, let's begin. Alicia Danielle Lofton was a 38-year-old mother living in Grand Rapids, Michigan. She devoted much of her life to raising her 3 children. Her eldest daughter was already in college. Her son was preparing for his own transition into higher education, and her youngest daughter was still in high school. Friends and relatives described her as hardworking and determined, focused on ensuring her children had stable opportunities and a secure future. In early 2023, Alicia entered a new chapter of her life. She married Marcus Lofton in February, beginning what she likely hoped would be a fresh start. The marriage, however, quickly revealed challenges. Within just a few months, the relationship became strained, showing clear signs of instability and conflict. By the summer of that same year, the union had deteriorated to the point of no return. On August 16, 2023, Alicia took a decisive step. She filed for divorce, formally marking her intent to separate from Marcus and end their brief 6-month marriage. The very next day, she would lose her life. Alicia's marriage to Marcus had begun with promise, but underlying issues soon surfaced. Tension grew as the months progressed, and by May 2023, the first serious sign of trouble became public. Marcus was arrested that month on a charge of domestic violence against Alicia. That incident resulted in legal consequences. The court imposed bond conditions requiring Marcus to have no contact with his wife. Despite this order, violations occurred. Reports indicate that the restrictions placed on Marcus did not prevent him from continuing contact. These breaches highlighted both his disregard for the legal boundaries set by the court and the limited protection that bond conditions offered Alicia in practice. In addition to the legal proceedings, other signs of instability in the marriage were visible. Marcus displayed increasing control and aggression toward Alicia, behaviors that suggested the situation was escalating rather than de-escalating. This progression aligned with common pattern in domestic abuse cases, where initial violence leads to repeated incidents and increasing risk. By August 2023, Alicia's decision to file for divorce appeared to be an effort to escape this cycle. The filing indicated that she had recognized the danger and instability of the relationship and was seeking a path out. However, the legal step of initiating divorce proceedings became a flashpoint. It marked a turning point that intensified the already volatile situation between the couple. The divorce petition filed on August 16, 2023, stood as an official record of Alicia's intent to move forward without Marcus. Less than 24 hours later, she was dead. The sequence of events in Alicia Lofton's case illustrates the presence of multiple red flags in a relatively short time span. First, the marriage itself was only 6 months old, yet serious domestic violence had already been documented by May. This quick deterioration pointed to deeply rooted problems in the relationship. Second, the legal system was already involved before the homicide occurred. The domestic violence arrest and the imposition of bond conditions signal recognition of the danger Marcus posed. However, the failure to enforce those conditions effectively allowed continued contact. This gap highlights the limits of protective measures when they are not backed by consistent enforcement. Third, Alicia's divorce filing indicated both awareness of the danger and determination to create change. In many domestic violence cases, the period immediately following a separation attempt is considered one of the most dangerous for the victim. That pattern proved tragically accurate in Alicia's case. On the morning of August 17, 2023, tension inside the Lofton household reached its breaking point. Just one day earlier, Alicia Lofton had filed for divorce from her husband, Marcus Lofton, after 6 months of marriage. The filing created a hostile environment in the home they shared, and arguments escalated quickly. According to investigative reports and witness statements, the couple engaged in a heated dispute regarding the divorce papers. During this confrontation, Marcus accessed a handgun that belonged to Alicia. Court affidavits later confirmed it was retrieved from a drawer inside the home. In his own account, Marcus claimed that his initial intent was not to discharge the weapon but to threaten or strike her during the altercation. However, the firearm went off inside the house. This first gunshot did not strike Alicia, but it changed the trajectory of the confrontation. Realizing the danger, Alicia attempted to protect herself. She ran into a nearby bedroom, locked the door, and tried to create a barrier between herself and her husband. Marcus did not stop. He forced his way through by kicking the door open. With the barrier destroyed, Alicia attempted a desperate escape through the bedroom window. At that moment, Marcus raised a handgun and fired. Multiple shots were discharged as Alicia tried to climb out of the window. The forensic and autopsy records later confirmed that 15 rounds were fired, with 7 bullets striking Alicia in the head and others striking her body. The number of shots and the placement of the wounds indicated close-range targeting. Alicia collapsed outside of the home, succumbing almost immediately to her injuries. Neighbors reported hearing the sequence of gunfire. Some recalled the sound with splintering, which investigators linked to the forced entry of the bedroom door. Several also reported seeing a maroon SUV leaving the area at high speed shortly after the shots were fired. That description matched a vehicle registered to Marcus Lofton. Law enforcement arrived on the scene within minutes of emergency calls reporting gunfire. Officers located Alicia outside the home, unresponsive, with visible gunshot wounds to the head and torso. The immediate area around her body contained blood evidence and shell casings, confirming multiple discharges of firearm. Emergency responders confirmed her death at the scene.
Family is sharing their grief tonight after a Grand Rapids mother was shot and killed last week.
According to court records, the suspect is in custody. It's the man she was trying to divorce. Our Julie Dunmeyer joins us with more. Julie.
Yeah, Josh and Max, family tells me it's hard for them to even hear Alicia Lofton's full name because she shares the same last name with the man who allegedly shot and killed her. Loved ones saying their main focus right now is on the 3 children she leaves behind.
Loving, outgoing, high-spirited, give you the clothes off her back, loved her kids, loved life.
This is Alicia Lofton, pictured here with her 3 children.
My oldest niece is graduating college next year, and her mom's not going to be there. She's going to be looking in the crowd to see her mom. It's going to suck that my nephew is going to Grand Valley for his first year, and he's looking for his mom to be there. It's going to suck for my youngest niece in high school who's not going to have her mom to pick out her prom dress.
And Alicia's loss will be felt long after she's gone, says Faustino Garcia, the family spokesperson.
Terrible, very terrible. Growing up, Alicia was like a sister to me.
A sister, now gone. Court records say on August 17th, Alicia was killed by multiple gunshot wounds to her head and body. Alicia's husband, Marcus Lofton, now in jail, charged with open murder for her death.
These kids have lost their mother. They lost their matriarch. They lost somebody that cared for them. And that's where I want the light shed on more, as not being shed on that guy.
Court records give Fox 17 a better idea about the final moments of Alicia's life. Marcus allegedly told officers he'd been served divorce papers, and an argument followed. During the argument, Marcus told officers he tried to hit Alicia with her own Glock, but the gun went off. Next, Alicia reportedly locks herself in a bedroom. Marcus told officers he broke down the door, found Alicia crawling out of the bedroom window before he opened fire.
Definitely a tragic loss because of the tragic story behind it as well.
According to court records, Marcus and Alicia are said to have had a history of domestic violence during their time as a married couple. The two were married in February, but just a few months later in May, Marcus was arrested for domestic violence, accused of harming Alicia. Court records say he wasn't supposed to have contact with Alicia, a condition of his bond from the May arrest. Family saying the hardest hit by all of this are Alicia's 3 children.
To find out that your mother was tragically murdered. My oldest niece is 22. My nephew is 19, and then her youngest daughter is 14. So they're handling it as best as they can.
Family hoping this tragedy shines a light on domestic violence in the loved ones left behind.
We shed some light on, domestic violence, I know it's tough for a lot of women to speak out, but just speak out on it.
Meanwhile, a GoFundMe has been set up to help support Alicia's children during this time. Her oldest daughter is set to graduate from Western this year. Her middle son is starting out at Grand Valley this fall, and her youngest daughter is heading back to high school soon. Live in the newsroom, Julie Dunmeyer, Fox 17 News.
The investigation quickly shifted to processing the residence. Inside the home, officers documented a broken bedroom door with visible damage consistent with forced entry. This was photographed and logged as supporting evidence that Alicia attempted to barricade herself inside the room. A window in the same bedroom showed clear signs of attempted exit, including fingerprints and partial damage, which corroborated the narrative that Alicia tried to escape. Forensic investigators recovered ballistic evidence linking the firearm to the rounds fired. The weapon itself was found to belong to Alicia, but in Marcus's possession at the time of the incident. Gunshot residue testing later confirmed discharge consistent with Marcus's account of holding and firing the weapon. The autopsy, conducted by the Kent County Medical Examiner, provided a precise account of Alicia's injuries. The examiner determined that she sustained 15 gunshot wounds, with 7 impacting her head and the remainder striking her torso and extremities. The trajectory of the bullets aligned with the theory that Marcus fired while Alicia was in motion, particularly as she tried to flee through the window. The medical examiner's report concluded that the wounds were fatal and that death was caused by multiple gunshot injuries. In addition to the physical and forensic evidence, witness statements strengthened the case against Marcus. Neighbors described the argument, the sound of forced entry, and the gunfire. Several placed Marcus's maroon SUV at the scene, consistent with the vehicle seen leaving after the shooting. Investigators also uncovered Marcus's criminal history, which included a prior arrest for domestic violence involving Alicia in May 2023. At that time, he had been released on bond under the condition that he avoid contact with her. This violation of bond conditions became a significant component of the prosecution's case, showing a pattern of escalating violence and disregard for legal restrictions. The totality of the evidence, autopsy findings, ballistic analysis, eyewitness accounts, physical damage inside the home, and Marcus's history of domestic violence form a cohesive picture for investigators. The crime scene told a clear story. An argument triggered by divorce papers escalated into a violent act in which Alicia attempted to protect herself and escape, but was pursued, cornered, and fatally shot. Within hours of the shooting, law enforcement located and apprehended Marcus Lofton, the husband of Alicia Lofton. Investigators had already gathered statements from neighbors who reported hearing gunfire and seeing a maroon SUV leave the scene. The description matched Marcus's vehicle, placing him at the location of the homicide. Authorities immediately charged Marcus with open murder, which in Michigan allows prosecutors to pursue either first-degree or second-degree murder, depending on evidence presented at trial. He also faced an additional charge of felony firearm possession. Given that the weapon used belonged to Alicia and Marcus had no legal standing to use it. At his initial arraignment, the court denied bond. The judge cited the severity of the crime, the clear evidence of intent, and Marcus's criminal history, including prior domestic violence arrests. This ensured he would remain in custody while awaiting trial. Court documents reviewed after the arrest revealed a significant development. Alicia had filed for divorce just 1 day before her death. This information became a central focus of the prosecution's theory. They argued that Marcus's actions were not spontaneous, but rather a deliberate response to Alicia's decision to legally separate from him. The proximity of the divorce filing to the homicide strengthened the narrative of premeditation. With Marcus in custody, investigators and prosecutors began to prepare for trial, compiling forensic reports, witness statements, and crime scene analysis to establish a clear sequence of events. The trial of Marcus Lofton became a focal point for the Grand Rapids community. Prosecutors sought to demonstrate that the killing of Alicia Lofton was deliberate, calculated, and the culmination of a pattern of violent behavior. The prosecution began by establishing the history of the relationship. They presented evidence of Marcus's prior arrest for domestic violence against Alicia in May 2023. Only 3 months before the homicide, the court had ordered him not to have contact with her, a restriction he violated leading up to the shooting. Prosecutors argued this pattern showed a disregard for the law and for Alicia's safety. Forensic experts presented detailed crime scene evidence. Ballistic analysis confirmed that the handgun recovered was Alicia's, but it was Marcus who had taken possession of it during the fatal confrontation. Photographs and diagrams illustrated the trajectory of the bullets and the locations where Alicia attempted to hide or escape. The medical examiner, Dr. David Start, provided critical testimony. He described Alicia's injuries in precise detail, confirming she suffered 15 gunshot wounds, 7 of which struck her in the head. Autopsy photographs shown to the jury revealed the extent of the trauma. The prosecution used this evidence to argue that the number and placement of the shots proved intent rather than accident. Witness testimony supported the forensic narrative. Neighbors reported hearing a heated argument between Marcus and Alicia, followed by the sound of breaking wood as Marcus forced open the bedroom door. Moments later, they heard multiple gunshots and saw Marcus's SUV leaving the scene. This sequence aligned with Marcus's own admission that he retrieved Alicia's gun during the dispute. The prosecution tied these facts together to build the case for premeditation. They highlighted the timing of Alicia's divorce filing, the history of domestic violence, and the number of shots fired as evidence that Marcus acted with the intent to kill. The defense countered by framing the incident as a tragic escalation rather than a planned killing. Marcus's attorneys argued that the initial gun discharge was accidental. They claimed Marcus intended only to intimidate or strike Alicia with the weapon, but did not plan to shoot her. According to this argument, the subsequent shots occurred in the chaos of the struggle and were not premeditated. The defense emphasized Marcus's own statements to police, in which he described the first shot as unintentional. They attempted to cast doubt on the prosecution's claim of intent by suggesting that the situation spiraled out of control in the heat of the argument. Central to the trial were the testimonies of the medical examiner and neighbors. The examiner's detailed account of the wounds reinforced the prosecution's case. The neighbors' accounts of the argument, forced entry, and rapid gunfire added credibility to the timeline of events presented by law enforcement. The jury was shown graphic autopsy photos during the medical examiner's testimony. These images, though difficult to view, were crucial in illustrating the extent of the violence. The prosecution relied on this evidence to counter the defense's claim of accident, showing instead a pattern of repeated, targeted shots. In 2025, nearly 2 years after the killing of Alicia Lofton, the legal process reached its conclusion. Her husband, Marcus Lofton, who had been arrested immediately after the incident and charged with open murder and felony firearm possession, appeared in court to face sentencing. After multiple pretrial hearings and the presentation of evidence, Marcus ultimately chose to enter a guilty plea to second-degree murder. This decision ended the possibility of a full jury trial on first-degree murder charges and allowed the court to move directly into sentencing. The sentencing hearing took place before a Kent County Circuit Court judge. The courtroom was filled with Alicia's family members, friends, and members of the local community who had followed the case closely. During the proceeding, the judge emphasized the severity of the crime. In open court, the judge referred to Marcus's actions as a despicable, cowardly crime, underscoring brutality and the permanent consequences of the act. The statement highlighted the fact that Alicia had been shot multiple times, including several wounds to the head, and that the attack occurred only one day after she had formally filed for divorce. Marcus was formally sentenced to 25 to 50 years in state prison. The sentence meant that he would not be eligible for release until he had served at least 25 years, and depending on parole board decisions, he could spend up to 50 years incarcerated. The penalty reflected the seriousness of second-degree murder in Michigan law and ensured that Marcus would remain in prison well into old age. As part of the sentencing hearing, Alicia's family was given the opportunity to deliver victim impact statements. These statements described the loss experienced by Alicia's children and relatives. Her children, who ranged from college age to high school, were left to grow up without their mother present during important milestones. Family members described how Alicia's absence would be felt at graduations, weddings, and everyday life moments that would no longer include her. The court record shows that these statements were read aloud, giving the judge and defendant direct testimony about the depth of the loss caused by the killing. Following the sentencing, the Lofton family faced a task of rebuilding their lives. Alicia's 3 children, who had already endured the trauma of witnessing the aftermath of their mother's death, now had to adjust to life without her. Each milestone became a reminder of her absence. Alicia's eldest child graduated from college, an event that had long been anticipated, but she was not there to attend the ceremony or share in the achievement. Her son prepared to start college without her support and guidance. Her youngest daughter continued through high school, knowing her mother would not be present at future milestones, such as prom or graduation. The community in Grand Rapids responded with support for Alicia's children. A GoFundMe campaign was established to provide financial assistance for their education and living expenses. The fundraiser was organized by family members and gained traction as news of the case spread beyond Michigan. The contributions became a practical way for supporters to help the family navigate the challenges of losing their mother and primary source of stability. Beyond the immediate family, Alicia's death sparked wider conversations in the community about the issue of domestic violence. Friends and relatives spoke publicly, urging greater awareness and emphasizing the importance of recognizing warning signs. They use Alicia's story to highlight the risks faced by victims who attempt to leave abusive relationships and to encourage others to seek help before violence escalates. Local media outlets also cover the case extensively, linking it to broader statistics on intimate partner violence and pointing to gaps in existing systems of protection. One of the central debates raised in the aftermath was the effectiveness of bond conditions and protective measures. Marcus had previously been arrested for domestic violence against Alicia just months before the killing. At the time of his release, court records showed that a no-contact order had been issued. Despite this, Marcus continued to have access to Alicia, culminating in the fatal confrontation. Critics questioned whether stronger enforcement of bond restrictions, closer monitoring of high-risk individuals, or different bail policies might have prevented the tragedy. The case underscored the potential shortcomings of legal mechanisms intended to safeguard victims of domestic violence. Legal experts and advocacy groups began using Alicia's case as an example in calls for reform. Suggested measures included electronic monitoring for offenders with histories of violence, stricter enforcement of no-contact orders, and expedited support for individuals filing for divorce in abusive situations. In the years following the sentencing, the Lofton case continued to be referenced in Michigan as a cautionary tale of how quickly domestic disputes can escalate to lethal violence. Community organizations worked to keep Alicia's memory present by connecting her story to educational programs, workshops, and domestic violence awareness campaigns. The case of Alicia Lofton forces a closer examination of the systems designed to protect victims of domestic violence. While her story ended in tragedy, the warning signs leading up to her death were visible, documented, and ultimately disregarded. One of the most significant failures was the enforcement of bond conditions. In May 2023, Marcus Lofton had already been arrested on charges of domestic violence against Alicia. Court records show that bond was granted under the condition that he have no contact with her. These restrictions were meant to create a protective barrier, allowing Alicia space to plan for her safety and legal separation. However, enforcement of these conditions proved weak. Contact was not adequately monitored, and there were no mechanisms in place to ensure compliance. This gap allowed Marcus to remain within reach of Alicia, culminating in the fatal confrontation just 3 months later. Beyond the bond violation, multiple warning signs were ignored. The marriage itself was only 6 months old when Alicia filed for divorce. Within that short span, violence had already entered the relationship. Arrests, police involvement, and the decision to separate were all indicators of dangerous escalation. Yet, there was no comprehensive intervention from the legal system, social services, or community safety networks. Alicia's decision to file for divorce on August 16, 2023, highlighted her recognition of these dangers. But instead of safety, her action appears to have triggered the deadly outcome the next day. This raises a central question. Could her death have been prevented? The evidence suggests that greater enforcement of bond conditions, stricter monitoring, and immediate protective responses might have changed the trajectory. In many jurisdictions, technology such as GPS tracking or mandated check-ins is applied to high-risk offenders. In Alicia's case, such measures were not used. The gap between policy and practice created a space where the cycle of violence could continue unchecked. Her case is not an isolated incident, but part of a larger crisis of domestic violence and femicide. Across the United States, women are killed by intimate partners at alarming rates. Many of these cases follow a pattern: prior abuse, attempts to leave, and final acts of violence committed during separation. Alicia's story fits this established pattern. It demonstrates how femicide often emerges not in sudden acts of violence, but as a culmination of ignored warnings and failed protections. The statistics reinforce the broader picture. Studies consistently show that the most dangerous time for a victim of domestic abuse is when they attempt to leave their abuser. Courts and protective systems often underestimate this heightened risk. In Alicia's situation, the divorce filing became the flashpoint. Without immediate and heightened security measures, she was left vulnerable at the exact moment she needed the most protection. This case serves as a call for reform in victim protection laws. Stronger measures are needed to ensure bond and protective order conditions are enforced with seriousness equal to the risks victims face. Legal reforms could include mandatory risk assessments after domestic violence arrests, automatic safety planning for victims filing for divorce under violent circumstances, and technological enforcement tools to monitor offenders. Without systemic change, similar tragedies are likely to repeat. Alicia Lofton's story is not just about one crime. It represents the cost of silence and missed red flags. Her death was a final outcome of a chain of preventable failures. Failures in recognizing patterns of violence, enforcing restrictions, and providing safeguards during the most dangerous period of separation. One life was lost, but the consequences extend far beyond the act itself. 3 children were left without their mother, forced to navigate pivotal life moments such as graduations, college entry, and daily living without her guidance. A community was scarred, left to grapple with the shock of how quickly a marriage turned fatal and how little the protective systems intervened. Her case underscores a harsh reality. Domestic violence escalates quickly and when ignored, often becomes fatal. Alicia's decision to leave was an act of self-preservation, but the protections surrounding her were insufficient. Today, her story stands as one of the most tragic examples of intimate partner violence in recent years. It forces an examination of not just what happened in one home in Grand Rapids, but of how society responds to domestic violence as a whole. Until protective systems are strengthened and warning signs treated with urgency, the cycle will continue. Alicia Lofton's case remains a stark reminder of what is at stake when red flags are missed and action is delayed. If you found this story as gripping and heartbreaking as we did, don't forget to like this video and share it with others. And if you want to hear more true crime stories that uncover the mysteries behind these tragic events, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest stories, updates, and discussions. Thank you for joining us on this journey to seek justice and explore the truth. Together, we can make a difference. Until next time, stay safe and stay aware.